Paul, what's your biggest regret in life? Just a personal but fun question. This is going to be a long one. This is going to be one that takes me a while to answer because I want to be candid and I want to be thorough with this. My biggest regret in life is the last relationship that I was in prior to my current relationship. It was 6 years, and it was probably the worst 6 years of my life. For those of you that have ever been in a really destructive relationship, you'll understand what I was saying. This girl and I were horrible for one another. Absolutely just horrible. We brought out the worst in one another. And so I'll tell the story of how we met, kind of what happened, and the aftermath of this on my life to give you context of my biggest regret. So, right after high school, I started to go to college, and I was hanging out, surprise, surprise, in front of the theater building at the college, and all of a sudden I hear this voice say, "Paulie?" And I look up, and this beautiful woman, just gorgeous woman, is running towards me, and I have no idea who she is. Absolutely no fucking clue. All my friends call me Paulie. And now everybody, on my YouTube channel is going to call me Paulie. But anyway, she's running towards me, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? She throws her arms around me like she's a long-lost friend that I haven't seen in 20 years. Kisses me on the cheek, and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe it's you. It's been so long. And after we stopped hugging, I looked at her, and finally, after 10 or 15 seconds of intensely, panicking, because she obviously knows me really well, and I have no clue, I figured out who it was. And it was this girl that I went to high school with. She was 3 years older than me, or 4 years older than me. And we met in high school through drama. We were in drama together. She graduated, but I continued to hang out with her and her group of friends, even though they were no longer in high school. And we lost touch my last year of high school or something, and I hadn't seen her. And the reason I didn't recognize her was, and I'm not making fun, I'm not trying to be an asshole. Back in high school, she was a really big girl. And I'm not, I'm a fat guy, okay? And I like to think that there are levels of fatness. And I think of myself, teetering up towards the high end of medium fat, if that makes sense. And then there are people that are just morbidly obese, have trouble getting around without a scooter obese. And she never used a scooter, but she was really big. And in the time that we lost touch, she had gotten bariatric surgery, gastric bypass, which is really popular in the United States for people that are really, really overweight. And had lost something like 200 pounds. And she was absolutely, model gorgeous at this point. And I was blown away. So I spent that whole day with her. I ditched the rest of my classes, which would become a pretty regular thing in my college career. But I ditched the rest of my classes, took her out to lunch, and we hung out and talked and had a great time together. I brought her back to the campus to drop her off at her car, and she gets out, and I get out to give her a hug, and she gives me a hug, and she puts her mouth, right against my ear. And for me, that's hot, you know what I mean? My ears, when a chick, nibbles your ear, she puts her mouth, right against, and we're hugging, and she leans over and puts her mouth, right against my ear, and she whispers, she says, "You're going to call me, right?" And I said, yeah, of course. I got your number, It sucks that we lost touch. We need to catch up. And she goes, no. You don't understand. You're going to call me, and I'm going to fuck your brains out. Now, for a lot of guys, the reaction would be, what are you doing right now? Can I go to a payphone and call? Because, we could go now, especially if you saw this girl. She's gorgeous. But for me, you got to put yourself in my shoes here. At this point in my life, I'm an 18-year-old virgin. I'm just out of high school. I'm still living at home with my parents. For all intents and purposes, I consider myself to be a kid still. I'm still a kid. You know what I mean? I've never had sex. I've certainly never had a full-grown. At this point, she's 21, maybe 22 years old. I've never had a grown woman threatened to fuck my brains out. You know what I mean? It freaked me out. I said, oh, yeah. And she got in her car and left, and I got in my car and left, and I never called her. I was free. I'm sorry. I know there are people face palming, and I face palm sometimes too when I think about it, but It freaked me out. So anyway, a few months later, I'm still living with my dad at this point. And, I had this great setup at my dad's house. He had a 2-story house, and all the other bedrooms were upstairs. And I had the only downstairs bedroom, and it faced the front of the house. So when everybody else went to bed, I pretty much had the run of this entire house. And my friends could come over and just come in through my window. Like, I took the screen off the window, and they knew that, if my light was on, they could just come and knock or let themselves in. Well, I'm laying there one night, like midnight or something, watching TV, and I hear somebody at my window, and I'm thinking, oh, it's one of my asshole friends. So I get up to let this person in, and it's this girl. And I still, to this day, have no idea how she knew that she was allowed to just come over to my house and come in through the window. I have no clue. It's a mystery, but there she is. And she's got this little shopping bag filled to the brim with alcohol. She was working as a bartender at this point in time. Yeah, so she's a bartender, and now I'm 19. I've turned 19 since the run-in that I had with her earlier. I'm 19, and a bartender is crawling through my window. And she proceeds to get me really, really drunk, and we end up in my dad's hot tub out in the backyard. And she is trying her best to rape me, just totally all over me. And I was so nervous, you know what I mean? And for me, looking back on it, it was a combination of never had sex, have no idea what this is going to be like, and this is a grown woman and I'm still a kid. What if it's going to be horrible and she's going to laugh at me? And so I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. And then finally I said, look, I don't want this to be, we're really good friends. I don't want, such a dumb excuse. I don't want this to just be I don't want to do this like this. I want to can we get to know each other a little? Can we spend some time? You know what I mean? I would love for us to be a thing. I'd love to, I don't even know how you put it. It probably came out exactly like this. But I don't want to just fuck, you know what I mean? I didn't tell her at this point that I was a virgin. And she was like, okay. So we dated, and that really noble stance that I took lasted, I think, a week, and I lost my virginity. For those of you that asked how my first time was, or to tell the story of my first time, it was just about as embarrassing and short as most people's first times. I know maybe there's some Don Juan motherfuckers out there that had porn sex their first time, but for me, it was it was the best 45 seconds of my life up until that point. And afterwards, I told her, look, I'm sorry, I was a virgin. She said, yeah, I kind of assumed, and it's but she was okay with it. And because I was still super young, 5 minutes later, I was ready to go again. And then the next time I had sex was markedly better, and it improved.